What's up, guys? 2JZ Dylan out here with the Supra, changing the clutch. I just drove 500 miles with my buddy to go pick this guy up. It's the same 6-puck as I've been running. Apologize, my garage is a little messed up right now, but got the trans out here, cleaning everything up. Pressure plate there. I'm going to show you guys how to replace your clutch if you have a R154. It's basically the same process for any pull style transmission. It's a lot different than what a lot of people are used to, because usually you can just put the clutch and pressure plate on your flywheel and then made up your transmission. But in this case, you actually have to put the pressure plate and clutch on your spline here and then install the trans, which makes it kind of a bitch depending on the shifter location and how much room you have, because you'll have to tilt the trans a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to show you guys step by step assembly, everything up to that point. Basically using average tools here, nothing special, no special tools. You will need some red Loctite for your flywheel bolts and some brake clean to really clean everything up nice and good. I'll be showing you guys how to put in the bell housing bolts, how to line everything up, how to install your drive shaft, literally everything on how to reinstall your trans. So if you need to take out your trans, just do everything I'm doing in reverse. Definitely don't want to touch this if you have dirty hands. Keep this thing as clean as physically possible until you are ready to install it. Even then, of course, obviously, keep her nice and clean. I sand this down to the point where I didn't feel any high spots. You can obviously see there's some heat to it. There's no cracking. It looks okay. Like, obviously could look a lot better with some machine work, but I'm in a time crunch, like I said. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just degreasing this thing all around. But the most important part to remember here is that you use a brake cleaner or some type of alcohol to clean off the metal surface where your clutch is going to be mating to. You don't want to touch this at any point during the installation to keep as much grease and oil off it as possible, because if any of that gets on your clutch, you will probably have to pull your trans again and either clean it or get a brand new clutch entirely. Any oil gets on there can really cause some bad slippage. So because this stuff likes to evaporate, I like to soak it in a paper towel or rag, and then I'll just go over it. And I already cleaned most of this off here, but you basically want to clean it till there's almost no dirt at all once you swipe it. So just keep doing that like 3 or 4 times, even if it's new, just in case. The exhaust out of the way. This here would be your flywheel. It's connected to the rear of your crankshaft. If you are replacing your flywheel, I highly recommend that you check out your rear main seal. It sits right behind here. Just inspect it. If it's not leaking or anything, you'd probably be good to go, but it's always worth replacing if you haven't done it in a while. I just replaced mine since I built the motor, so I'm not too worried about it. Really good indicator would be if there's a good amount of oil down here or any in the bell housing. If it's leaking, you might have some oil on the bottom of your trans or something. Just keep an eye out for it, because oil is going to destroy your new clutch. But other than that, yeah, basically do the same thing you did with the pressure plate. Clean up the surface. If you are reusing your flywheel, you should definitely get it resurfaced. Like I said, I'm in a hurry and I don't really have time, so unfortunately I just sanded it down flat. Basically feel for any bad spots on it, any high spots, and you want to get those eliminated. And basically if it's glazed or anything, you definitely want to get it to where it's not as glazed, so that you actually get some grip on that new clutch. As for the trans itself, I went ahead and cleaned the outside just to make it look a little cleaner, but what's important is cleaning this area inside your bell housing. You don't want any of that dirt getting on your clutch or any of the mating surfaces. So just make sure you clean it up as well as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get most of it off. So anytime you buy a new clutch or a clutch kit, it should come with a supplied lubricant here. And what you're going to want to do with this is actually lubricate your spline here on your transmission. And after you're done lubricating it, you want to take a rag and clean off any excess. This stuff's really thick, so even when you wipe it off, there's still going to be plenty on there. All it's really doing is making sure the clutch doesn't bind up on the spline and that it easily moves in and out when you engage or disengage your clutch. So it's extremely important that you use lubricant and that you wipe off the excess, because when you're spinning your engine, you know, at 8,000 RPM, you can imagine the amount of lubricant that could be slinging around. And, you know, that could go on your clutch, your pressure plate, flywheel. It's just not worth having to pull it all back apart when you just installed a new clutch and possibly ruining that clutch. So use your lubricant and always wipe off the excess. I'm going to be going to pick up a trans jack, and then I'm going to get it on there after I'm done cleaning it up here. And we will go ahead and get it on the jack and start situating everything up on the trans jack, try to get it back up in the car. So one thing I'm doing right now is I'm checking my transmission fluid. So I don't have a very good tool because it's so close to the wall there, the tunnel, that I can't really get a tool in there very easily. So this is a really good time to check your trans fluid, especially if you have an R154, because these rear seals are known to leak a good amount of fluid from time to time, especially at higher speed. So it's good to check that and make sure it's not leaking, and if it is, you can replace it. The W58 rear main on these trans actually they have a tighter fit, so you can actually put those in here to prevent that from happening. But yeah, so I'm just going to be checking my fluid here. I'm just taking an old bottle and putting some fluid in there because I probably won't need a whole quart. I did lose a little bit taking it out. If you tip the transmission without the drive shaft, the fluid is going to leak out. So what I like to do is take an old bottle, and then I'll put this guy in here and, you know, just put some fluid in it from my new bottle. And that way you can save the rest of your fluid for if you ever need it again, and seal that bottle up and keep it in good condition. So a really shitty thing happened yesterday. Halfway through putting the transmission back in, unfortunately my GoPro died, but I still got a good amount of footage here to show you guys. As you can see, the trans is back in the car here, and there's the transmission jack here. So what you guys really missed yesterday was really just me jacking this thing up. I do have some iPhone footage I'm probably going to be adding into this video for you guys. I wish it was all from the GoPro, but you know, it is what it is. Got the old trans on the jack here with this jackass. Hi! Had to custom fabricate a way to jack this thing up. Pressure plate on, and then the clutch. Just aligning everything up here. Shifter goes in first. Then we're going to be aligning the bell housing here at the back of the engine. Oh! Old GoPro died, so I'm gonna have to do this iPhone style, but you got the trans mated here. Just got some dowel pins you stick it in, stick in a couple bolts, and that's basically the bell housing bolts just all around the transmission here. And then We got these mounts in the back, where it mounts in the back of the vehicle. Just 4 bolts, 2 on each side. And then after that, clamp up the flywheel with the 6 bolts to the pressure plate and put in the drive shaft. You got the rear bolts in here. Fuck face here. My favorite.
Yo boy.
Now we just gotta get the rest of these bell housing bolts in, clamp up the flywheel to the pressure plate, and put that shaft in. Oh yeah, daddy.
One of the important things I forgot to mention to you guys was on your clutch disc, there's going to be a flywheel side and a transmission side. And the transmission side obviously always goes towards the transmission, of course. And the side that doesn't stick out as much always goes towards the flywheel. So, for example, this side would go towards the transmission. If you do not do this correctly, you're going to be hitting your flywheel and you could potentially fuck up your clutch. And so on the trans itself, you can see pressure plate goes on first on the spline, and then you install the clutch in front of that. Obviously the correct orientation. Because it's a pull style trans, you have to put the pressure plate and the clutch on the spline shaft from the transmission. You can't just mount up the pressure plate to the flywheel with the clutch and then put the trans on. Unfortunately, it's just not how pull style transmissions work. If you try to remove this trans with the pressure plate still connected to the flywheel, it will not budge at all, and you'll end up bending your dowel pins on your flywheel. So keep that in mind. If you're ever trying to take out your engine or transmission, always disconnect the clutch fork, the slave cylinder, starter, and then always undo those 6 bolts that hold that pressure plate to that flywheel. Back under the Supra, got Zach over here putting the rear mount on. Oh yeah. The trans here, and we got the pressure plate on the dowels here. So next thing you got to do is you take your 6 bolts that clamp it to the flywheel and put some red Loctite on those, and make sure they're all seated evenly, and then torque them down nice and evenly.
Got all the bolts torqued down with red Loctite. We're just going to install the clutch fork here. This is what your slave pushes up against to push or pull your pressure plate to relieve the pressure from your clutch. So basically it just goes in there just like that, and there's these 2 bolts. You just tighten these down and it's basically good to go.
Me gusta.
That means she's torqued to spec. Got the trans in. Clutch fork is installed in there. Just those 2 bolts right there. Slave has been installed behind that. Pushes up on the fork there. That's what actuates your clutch. We just got done installing the old drive shaft. Just a spline on the back of your trans here you push it into, and then depending on your setup back here, I have a spacer plate to accommodate my R154 and my differential, but we got her going. Torque to spec.
Torque.
And we're just checking everything over. Go ahead and actuate the clutch, make sure there's no noises, and yeah, we're gonna see how she drives and make sure everything is working as it should. Moment of truth. No bad noises so far. Idling a little low without the idle air control valve. Sounds great. Hell yeah. Clutch feels alright.
Oh yeah.
Clutch is installed, and that's how you install a clutch on a manual pull style transmission. It obviously varies depending on what you're working on, but yeah, that's about it for this video. Keep working on your shit boxes. Got to keep them out on the road as long as we can until the EPA decides we can't do shit with our cars anymore, but stay tuned. I'm going to break this clutch in, and we will see about that burnout and doing some other fun stuff with this thing now that we got a nice and grippy clutch. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll let you know next time I am making a video. If you guys have any ideas for videos, I am always open to stuff, so yeah, just let me know. Peace.